Actually, Divi is pretty well done, because if you forgot what setting is about, for instance, top tier drop-down menus, what is it again? Well, there's always a help button on the right that appears when you move your mouse over it, and when you click, it explains what it is. So that's very helpful. Could mention that. And what actually this is, the drop-down menu links. Well, we have an example here. Here we have drop-down menus on the top links, right? If I disable this, this one is very specific because you enable to disable. Like Windows, you start to stop. It's the same stupid thing. So they should name it differently, but I changed the settings. What I want to demonstrate is this. Here, if I disable this, then if I click here on the stop menus, right, nothing happens. This is what this option is about. If I disable, which means enable links, and save it again, if I go here, then if I click, I do go to the page it's linked to. And on pages, if I disable the drop-down menus here, right, then this time it should not show. Well, if I used the menu from Divi, which I don't, then it would have changed something, but it doesn't here. Yeah, I'm not sure we're very clear about this. This, by default, Divi creates links directly from pages and categories. We probably don't want that, because in our case, we want to make sure we control the menu, how it appears, and we don't want a new menu to appear magically each time we create a page. I know, Anastasia, we had an issue with that at some point. We created the website, and then for pages it's not much a problem, but for categories it is. Every time we create a new category, it appears on the menu, and so every time we have to go back to this page and disable every category we have created. So to avoid this, we use menus from this here. As soon as we start using menus that I showed this morning, then the automatic navigation from Divi is disabled. So we don't have to worry about it anymore. Do you get the thing? Either we use the Divi automatic navigation system, or we create our own using menus. Anyway, don't worry, when we'll be working on your website, we'll see that again. Do we want the sidebar to be on the left, like on this website? Or do we want it to be on the right, like this website? So it's already written in the presentation, but what do you think is the difference? Actually, Billy already said it, so if you followed, you should know the answer. We read a page from left to right, at least all us around here, around the Pacific. And most of our visitors will read from left to right. Right? Am I right saying this? Yeah. So when we go through a page, it's the same. So if we have a sidebar on the left, we'll see it first, which means that we focus on the navigation. We make sure that the visitor knows where he is and where he wants to be, where he wants to go, and that he is aware what else he has. If it's on the right, like in this case, we focus on the content, because we start by reading the content. I personally prefer this layout, but depending on the design you have, actually, you might want to use it differently. One thing for sure, left or right, it's up to you, but make sure it's consistent all across the website. If you say I want it on the left, it will be, make sure it's on the left on every page on your website. Don't sometimes use left and sometimes use right. Right? It's part of the usability. We have to make sure we follow the basic rules of usability. That's how we do it. Consistent layout, left or right, up to you, but all the way on all your website. Here I have a list of articles in this page, which, well, don't bother reading the content because it's all fake content, but here you can see, well, it's actually the beginning of this post. If I click on the post, you can see the first sentence is this, right? There's the first paragraph and then there's the rest, okay? And if I go on if I'm on the page here, you can see it's actually, yes, the first sentence, and then it's cut in the middle. So basically you don't control. It's 150 by default, you can change that, but 150 characters and stop. So you can break a word, anything can happen, and at the end you probably be frustrated by that. So to avoid this, what we can do is when we edit the post, we use excerpts. I'm going very quick on this, but it's just to show you an example, because we'll go back to it. But for instance, if I just select this, the first sentence, right? It's only the first sentence in excerpt. And then I go back to my page, if I can. And I reload. You see, this time it shows the excerpt and it's not cutting anything. I control what's in there. Just wanted to give you an example of what an excerpt is. We quickly talked about, well, we mentioned it, but we haven't actually talked about the Gutenberg editor and the Divi Builder. This is all about writing content in a what you see is what you get kind of text editor. What you see here is an example of what the classic editor is, meaning what it used to be on WordPress version and up to version 5. This is something that you can find in many different systems. You have something very similar in Joomla, for instance. It's a basic text editor when you just write and then you change the style in bold, italics, all that. You can add some images in there. All you would do it through this classic editor. You would have done it using this in WordPress 4. So that's what you would see Anastasia or you Emily today, because we haven't upgraded to WordPress 5. So it's very basic. The advantage is that it's simple to use and it's lightweight. The drawbacks and what has been improved in the next version is that there's no instant preview. You edit, but it doesn't really look like it's going to look once it's published on the website. And it's very basic, and you cannot create columns or tabs or all these fancy layouts. Well, you could using many different plugins, and it gets heavy and difficult to use. So we tried to improve that, make things better in WordPress 5, and that's when comes the Gutenberg editor. Instead of writing in one simple editor, now you create blocks, and each block can be a different component, different style, and that's what we're going to use during this workshop. Because it's kind of modular, it uses blocks, then it integrates better with plugins. So when we add a feature on WordPress, if the plugin is well written, it will add a block in a block type in Gutenberg. All right, we're talking, but let's see how it looks like, because that's much more interesting. Let's create a new post, and you can see first block is the title. So this is my first post. All right. Then you can just keep writing if you don't want to use anything fancy, so you write whatever you want. But you can also integrate something else, like the list of latest posts, an image. You might want to create a gallery of images, so a slideshow if you want. And as you can see, there are many different options, including create columns. So here I can create 2 columns. I can also create even more than that. I just have to set it up and decide how many columns I want. Here I have 2, 3, 4, etc., etc. More than 4, you might not need more than 4. But anyway, depends. So this is, I'm just showing you how it works. We'll go back to it, don't worry about it. We'll see this much more in details. But you see, for those of you who have already used the classic editor or even in Joomla, you can see already it's a bit different. It allows you to do more complex stuff. But it's still pretty lightweight. They take a good effort to make it. They did a good work keeping it as lightweight as possible, which means that if you don't have a great internet connection, it's still supposed to work. But it's still a bit heavier. And obviously it needs a bit of practice to get used to because, well, as always, more options, more flexibility. Well, the more flexible it gets, the more complex it gets to use. So we'll take time to practice on that, so you will know how to use it. Now, Divi. Divi is a great, very popular theme, and one of the main feature is that it provides what we call a page builder or layout builder. The Divi theme came out way before WordPress 5, so way before Gutenberg came out. So it was very popular because of this, because it allows you to do complex layouts the same way Gutenberg editor does. Well, the same way, not exactly, but actually you can achieve the same thing. And it uses blocks. It's the same mechanism behind it, but it came out way before Gutenberg 5 did. So what I mean is that you can do the same thing, even more actually, because since Gutenberg or WordPress 5 came out, obviously Divi improved even more, so we're always a step ahead. So that's why we also keep using Divi. It's because we can still do even more with that, and you can do really whatever you want with it. And it's actually very good when it comes to the home page, because the home page or any landing page you want to create, it will be more complex than any other page. It's a page that you create once, but you want to make sure it's great and it's attractive, that your visitors will find whatever they want quickly. So you will need to make use a fairly complex layout, and this is possible using this. Again, that's something we're going to work with during the next few days. Now beware, I'm personally not a big fan of the Divi page builder because it's very heavy and to use. That's why I'm saying, well, you might want to use it for the home page and a few other pages, contact pages, for instance. But I would recommend not using it for posts. Meaning if you write one post every week or even every month, and it's just something simple about announcing the release of a new report or the new CPI index, CP index or whatever, but something that you want to keep simple and you want to do quick, you don't need to use Divi. Just go with simple Gutenberg editor and add a file, link to it, and that's it. So that's my recommendation. You will make your own decision. You will do whatever you want after that. But you will see that it's quite heavy, quite difficult to use. So probably not a good thing to use for posts. Billy here is an expert of Divi, so he will take care of the presentation for Divi. That's why in the options of Divi, I recommend to disable the Divi Builder on posts. Keep it enabled on pages because on some pages you want it enabled. Projects, I've already said we forget about that. But if at any point you need to use, you want to use the Divi Builder, even for posts, you will have to go back to the settings of Divi and change this. Be careful, once you start using Divi, you cannot go back. If you disable it, it will break everything. So, up to you. But try it out, make sure you get a good hand on both editors and then you decide. Well, we're going back to the Divi options. Those are other options that we have on Divi. And again, I've just listed them in the presentation, so you can go back to it at any time you want. Where are we? Builder, advanced. Yeah, that's one. So Builder, that's where you select if you want them enabled or not. And then there are a few other options where you say, basically if you leave it this way, it's pretty much optimized to make your website as fast as possible. And if you want to use the classic editor because you're really used to it because you used WordPress 4 before, you can enable it from here, but be careful, if you enable it, disable Divi. The layout, sorry. Well, we can take a bit of time at this because on layout, you have a layout for single post, single page, and general settings. They are more or less the same under each tab. What you have to understand is basically this is the default options for every post or page that you create. When you create a post, you most probably want to show at what date it has been posted, because you want to use your users to know when was the last update, and if you're talking about if you're providing population numbers, they might want to know when it was published. So you will probably leave this option on. The date, you want to show the date to people. You want to show in which category, because those are also, if they are shown, they also link to pages and to categories. So it's also another good thing for SEO. Well, you probably don't want to enable comments. You don't want to show how many comments have been made simply because you probably won't use comments. And the author, well, if you have many authors and if you believe that it's important for your users to identify it, then well, okay, let's show it, but if it's only to show that it's the site administrator that posts it, then you probably want to hide it. So make sure you enable or disable the options you want. And we have these options for single post layout, which means we are reading one post. Single page layout, which means we are on the page. If you're still a bit confused between the difference, don't worry. Once you'll get into your website, you will quickly find out the difference between post and page. And general settings are the default options we will have. For instance, this is a list of, I'm in a category page. I'm about CPI, so you can see these are the latest posts on CPI. So I'm showing the date, the category. I'm not showing the author because I don't think it's really useful. And if I change a setting here, let's see, I'm enable the author name. Sorry. Then you can see it shows that it's by Stanley. Very interesting. So there you go. You change your settings here and then it changes all around your website, so it's all in one place. Hang on. There you go. Place thumbs, we will go back about that when we will talk about writing content. Thumbs or feature images. This is something quite important, but we will see when we write posts. So single page layout, I've gone through this. General settings, it's the default. All right, and that's it.